Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Rebound, and I am back at it again with another midnight chat. So I know I've been MIA, but just had to do some adjusting. I've also been spending some more time reading. I'm actually working on 3 different books right now. It's weird how my mind does that. But yeah, so tonight's video, I just kind of wanted to go back and examine the topic of narcissism and truly the impact that it has on its victims, right? So I noticed that many of us who are victims of narcissistic abuse go through this isolation period. And I believe this is a way for us just to kind of bounce back and reflect on, the trauma that has happened to us, reflect on what the narcissist is, add in the spiritual component, and really just give our body time to put all the pieces together. And what's interesting about that is the fact that sometimes a lot of us get comfortable there, right? And we get comfortable being in isolation because we remember what it was like when we were unaware to this type of disorder, or spiritual disorder, I guess we can call it. And we just remember how society ostracized us, how society constantly gaslit us, sabotaged us, manipulated us, lied to us, played us. And this is what caused us to pull back. And it's something that, especially in my life, which, now I'm reflecting on. I noticed that, when I first woke up to the idea of narcissistic personality disorder, as I say many times on the channel, it terrified me, right? So I knew that evil existed in the world, but I didn't know evil was as complex as this, right? I didn't know that the things that were done to me intentionally, right? And then, of course, looking at the person, the physical person, doing the damage, I, did not add in the spiritual component. And I didn't really understand that I was going through spiritual warfare. And I had been since the very beginning, since I entered this planet. And it's difficult, right? It's difficult, right? So I know that once I woke up, I decided to give myself a year just to kind of figure things out, just to kind of understand what was happening to me. And as I started to pull away, this is when the abuse increased, which was also very shocking. And I remember, giving myself about a year to kind of understand what I had been going through and, really go through the grieving process, and ultimately accepting what had happened to me, right? Accepting, my childhood traumas, and what felt like enslavement, to accepting the, interpersonal relationships that I had, in the workplace, when it came to dating. And what was interesting about that was when I was in the mix, I always could tell something was wrong. But like many of us who are victims of narcissistic abuse, we gaslight ourselves and we tell ourselves there's no way that this person is attacking you for no reason. There's no way that this person sabotaged you, right? If they don't know you. And, I continue to work through my traumas, and this is when I start to have a lot of problems at work, right? So I had this covert narcissistic manager who, from the outside looking in, everybody loved this guy. But there was one problem. This guy hated me. And it took some time for that to occur. And a lot of us who have been scapegoated, typically what happens with us is society will love us at first. And then as they get to know us, they can sense something's off. And they'll come up with assumptions about who we are. Typically, they will gossip and spread rumors about us. And it's like our very existence is so upsetting to them that they will do everything in their power to try to destroy us. And when it comes to, the narcissist trying to destroy those of us who are empathic, they give it all that they have, right? And this is why a lot of us continue to promote this disorder online, just so other victims of abuse too can wake up. And so that increased, and I had to leave that situation, and decided to go get back out in the world, or I figured, okay, it wasn't time, it was time for me not to be isolated, and participated in a marathon, and had a narcissist cling to me right away. And once you understand the traits of a narcissist, they're pretty easy to examine, right? They're very predictable, right? So this woman had love bombed me. It was, then of course she tried to triangulate me, showing up at my job with someone else. And the day of the marathon, she was nowhere to be found. Contacted her afterwards. She had lied to me about her time, and just made up several excuses as to why she was nowhere to be found the day of the event. And these are the games that the narcissist plays. And I feel that when you do the work and you understand that the things that they do to us is intentional, then it's something that you just kind of you accept, right? So that's just going to be the behavior. And so then the pandemic hit, like literally right after the marathon, and the whole world got shut down, or I guess you can say the whole world went through a form of narcissistic abuse. And 2 years into the pandemic, I'm here, right? And during this time, I have healed tremendously. The way I feel about myself is completely different. My self-esteem is so much better than what it was. I have so many more boundaries than I did in the past. My codependent behavior has died. However, what was supposed to be a year of isolation, it's almost turned into 4. And just sitting back and reflecting about just my place in the world, and just the things that I would want. It's difficult, right? Because the pandemic has really just thrown another twist into things, right? So if you want to go somewhere, where I'm at, it's like, okay, well, make sure you arrive early so you can take a PCR test, or make sure you get the what. And it's crazy to me how much the world has transformed in a matter of 2 years right into this thing. And I really do believe that God has really sent strong delusion, which is why it seems like this whole agenda is moving by so flawlessly in a way. And then I think about just my personality type, right? So I know a lot of you don't really care too much about astrology, but I'm an Aquarius, and we like our isolation, and we don't mind it at all. And sometimes, in this period of healing or grieving, we can kind of tuck ourselves away and get comfortable there, right? And I know that it's me as well as a few others, and a lot of us are humanitarians, so it's like we're constantly thinking about just humanity and what humanity is going through. For those of us in the faith, we're constantly looking ahead, and we're wondering, okay, well, where are we in end times prophecy? And that, in addition to just kind of reflecting on who we have been in society, the positions that we served, and that kind of keeps us away, right? And there's like a part of me that wants to get back out there, but I really do feel that I guess I gotta have to give myself more time, right? And when my spirit is ready, then it will be ready, right? But yeah, it's a a pretty interesting thing, and um, I mean, when I stumbled across this disorder and I decided to heal from my abuse, I knew that it was going to be a hard job. I knew it was going to be very painful. I knew that, um, I was going to shed some tears. I knew that I had to let all the narcissists in my life, for the most part, die, because who I thought they were, that person never existed. And I had to do this with each person separately, which was a challenge. And going through this process once again, it's like I've healed so much. However, I feel that I it's almost where I almost feel like I have to accept that no matter how much work I do on myself, that I'm always going to be a scapegoat to society, right? Like, I'm never, if you had to categorize me in a group, this is the group that I will always fall in. And what's interesting is because I've been isolated, my interaction with people, it's minimal outside of work. And it's just so crazy how when you ask someone to do something for you, you already know that there is going to be some type of excuse, or that they're not going to do it because you studied the pattern. And I really do believe that this is spiritual, right? I believe that, once again, there is like a separation of the wheat and the tare. And in this great separation, the tares definitely know who we are. And because of this, they don't fuck with us. Excuse my language, but they really don't. And I thought that these problems would go away as I continued to move along my healing journey, but I guess these situations have just kind of shown me, okay, well, not to go to places where I'm not welcome, or if somebody can't do something for you, go ahead and find someone else, right? But yeah, it's just interesting, right? To for those of us who are followers of Christ, knowing that we're living in end times, still trying to get our ish together, spiritually speaking, and really just being a part of a society that is either apathetic towards us, hateful towards us, or a society that doesn't really understand us, right? And it's just something that I know in my case, it's something that I've gone through my whole life. I just kind of feel like being an empathic person in this demonic world, it's like no one really understands you. It's like people can mimic your behaviors, but that's not really who they are. And I think this is why a lot of us who have awakened to this type of abuse and who have focused on healing, I think this is why a lot of us go into isolation, because we see reality for what it is. We understand our place in society, and we understand the traits and characteristics of the narcissist, and we understand that there is this ongoing war. And I guess to safeguard ourselves, we become more reserved. And so I guess, personally, it's kind of like I'm having this battle with myself, because I understand that it's not healthy to be reserved, right? It's like I can wake up, and I woke up, I want to say it was sometime this week, and I'm like, wow, like I've literally been isolated this whole pandemic. And I'm completely fine with it, which I don't feel is healthy. Um, Even though there's been so much healing that has taken place, even physically. But I do believe as human beings, we do need a community, which is why, I'm so thankful to have you all here, and, on the various other sites that I have, just to communicate, and just to really have a place to express our ideas, talk about fringe topics, help one another heal, and empower ourselves to be that much better. But yeah, it's an interesting world, right? It's really, it's like I examine, the direction that the world is going in, and I'm like, it is so perplexing, right? It is so perplexing. You see just the theatrics everywhere, the drama. You have one state do one thing in regards to the what, then you have another state do another, and then a lot of people are talking about potential World War III threats popping up, and I've kind of been, when it comes to those type of current events, I've kind of been unplugged, just because life is already stressful, right? And it's not like I'm running from what can possibly happen, but I do, I don't want to get lost in it, and I don't want it to be the only thing that I'm concerned about, a potential war. But it is interesting, right? And I just think about this, inoculation, and what is its purpose, right? And it seems like it has many purposes, right? It could be a depop tool. It could be some type of integration with artificial intelligence. And, sometimes you wonder how advanced these different secret societies are. You understand that they're getting a lot of their information from demonic forces. And then when you look at some of the materials that is in this thing, it just seems so advanced. It almost seems ancient at the same time, right? Something to the likes of like a computer system, right? Integrating with the body. And, I just always wonder, right? So I'm reading a book now. It's called Prey by Michael Crichton, I believe. Seeing if I could find some information there. The book came out in 2000, I believe, somewhere around there, 2002. And it talks about nanotechnology. And I was listening to another content creator who has since been removed off of these YT streets, but she made the connection of this type of technology and the alien abductions that many people were talking about during the 60s. And could this have been the beta test, right? To integrate this AI into mankind, and then use that AI to deceive mankind with, I guess you can say, artificial intelligence or projections, such as like Project Bluebeam. And I've noticed that there is a lot of information popping up in regards to aliens, right? I've seen a lot on YouTube. And so a lot of us in the faith do believe that this agenda, is a part of the Great Deception, and it's going to explain away the rapture, or explain away whatever cataclysm hits the planet, right? And so, it's just sit back, I sit back and I wonder, okay, so what is this thing, right? What, could it be connecting mankind to something else? Is it just another form of our enslavement? Will this go away, or will there be future pandemics every few years? Future inoculations? What is it, right? So in the book, he talks about the idea of nanotechnology, and he writes it in a fictional way, but pretty much it's like this technology creates a mind of its own. And I'm still moving through the book. I'm about halfway through, to see if there's any kind of ideas that are similar to what's going on today. But I don't know, I just think about that stuff all the time, because this inoculation is just really damaged a lot of things for me, right? So like where I'm at, being in Los Angeles, you need you need to show proof of it in certain places that you go to. If not that, then you have to show a negative test. And so even though I want to integrate in society, it's like I can't, right? So it's like this it's like an additional boundary to keep me away from like socializing, which is fine. Eventually I think by the end of this year I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, right? I think, go somewhere in the Bible Belt. I think that would be healthy for me. But yeah, so it's just interesting to think about, just all this stuff. Or will this whole I guess you can call it cycle of abuse, will it all stop? Is there a quota? Is it a precursor to World War III? What is it, the mark that some people suspect? I don't know. But I guess during this time, although I'm going to continue to think of what is to come of this agenda, it's important to focus on, getting our souls right as well. I've been backsliding a lot lately, and, excuse me, and really just trying to, kind of get my spiritual life in order. I understand that this is a Christian-based channel. I do believe that it's very important to encourage one another. And so I was on a call, and there is a pastor by the name of Robert Henderson. And it seems I have purchased a book of his. It's called Operating in the Courts of Heaven. And it's pretty much a blueprint of how to pray or how to deal with spiritual warfare. And so I've only got through the first chapter, but he says a lot of us go into war or in prayer as if we're on a battlefield. But he argues that, that kind of prayer has a particular time. But he also argues going to God as a judge and entering prayer as you're entering a courtroom, right? Because there's, I guess, a lot of dark principalities who are our adversary. And so when we pray in the spirit, the adversary is doing everything that he can to hinder our prayers from being heard. And because we don't know, I guess, the particular protocol, this is why it feels like a lot of our prayers aren't being answered, right? And it's very interesting. I wonder, do a lot of what we suffer from, I wonder if it is passed down generationally, right? Like, are these generational curses from our bloodline? And I feel like there's a lot of power in the blood. But I wonder if all these negative things, done in the past, could it be passed down to us, right? And is there some type of spiritual stronghold? I know that trauma is passed down. So I wonder if all these other, things are passed down as well. So I'm working on that book, and, I'll let you all know how it goes. It seems pretty good. It seems like it's a pretty easy read. And then my other book, let's pull that up. I guess this is a book review session. It's called Tuesdays with Maury. I actually was recommended this book by a very, I guess you can say she's a famous person. And so I started reading it on my birthday. But pretty much the main character is a professor, and he was diagnosed with a disease, I think a neurological disease, where he only had a few years to live. And it's kind of just talking about, this character's mindset and his will to keep pushing through in spite of his, disease, right, or affliction. And so that's another book that I'm working on. So I think, during this time, a lot of us really do have to find things that we enjoy to do, and are things that we've kind of pulled away from. And, with everything that's going on, I haven't been reading as much. But now I'm trying to dive into, some books, and maybe if I find it good, I can bring, that commentary onto the channel. Right. So if it's spiritual, if it's conspiratorial, if it's uplifting, right? I think that that's right, really my genre and my, what I'm definitely interested in. But yeah, so, that's kind of been me. That's what I've been going through these days and why I've kind of been MIA. In my last video, I talked about just kind of going through this dark season, or I guess you can say this emotional season. Um, but I feel like I'm on the other side of that now. So I'll try to bring some more content to the channel. There was a subscriber who, brainstormed some ideas. I think what I want to do is talk about the narcissistic parent once again and kind of talk about how, how the narcissistic parent really does sabotage their child even when they're out of the picture. Like, let's say if the parent has passed away, and what's so interesting about, this type of abuse, going back to narcissistic abuse, is the power that it has over the victim, right? A lot of us have had these beliefs about who we thought we were based off of what has been told to us as children. A lot of us have strayed away from making certain decisions in our life due to the abuse. And then a lot of us have been attracted to that same demonic spirit. And even though we got away from one abuser, we ended up dating our parent or marrying our parent. And, being someone who's not a narcissist, it's just, it's so hard for me to understand their mindset. I understand what it's like to be hurt, right? But the damage that these people really do inflict on us, it is so difficult, and it will just leave us so confused. It will leave us so confused. Like we just, it's like going through the abuse is already traumatizing, and then trying to understand why you went through the abuse and how could someone do these things to you. Not only is it traumatizing, but it's very confusing, right? Especially if you take the spiritual side out of it. And, I feel that it is very, very important to add the spiritual side in, because it really does boil down to the fight between good versus evil. And a lot of us, I believe, for those of us who have been chosen, I believe we were chosen before we came to this planet. And I believe that we just had to realize it, right? I believe, almost go back and forth with the decision already being God's decision. And the reason why, I stand on that is just because our experiences on this planet has been, it's been brutal. It has been brutal. And a lot of it started when we were children. So before we even were aware of our own existence, the narcissists or the hive or, the cluster bees, right? Organic portals, they knew who we were. And it seems, because of that, we've been hated, and things just have been so much more difficult for us because, this beast, this Antichrist beast, does everything in its power to make sure that, we're constantly in a state of trauma or being highly traumatized. But I do believe that we do have the power to heal. And even though, in the beginning of the video, I talked about kind of the negative components of isolation, I do believe that sometimes we do have to pull back just to discover who we are again, right? Who we were before we came to this world. And I think that's what the enemy doesn't want us to figure out, right? That we were something before we got here. And this is why once we get here, they do everything to break us down. And, with some people, they're successful. And then with others, such as myself, such as those of you who are listening to the channel, they are not successful, right? So once again, we have to do what we need to do to empower ourselves. The power is in our hands, and through the grace of God, I know that we can get there. So I guess that's going to be it for this midnight chat. I really hope all of you are doing well. I understand that, times can be difficult right now. I understand that all of our faith is being tested right now. But we really have to, come together and do everything in our power to empower each other and just to teach each other not to give up, right? So this truly is a narrow road, and sometimes we get sidetracked and we drift off the road, but we have to get back up and pick up our cross and get back on that narrow road. So I will talk to you all next time. I'll keep you all updated if I do a live. I'm just kind of getting adjusted to my job and school and all that stuff, but I'll let you know. And I will talk to you all next time. Take care and have a great night.